I remember having this annoying issue with GUIs that I couldn't really solve. Whenever I looked at the docs, there was nothing mentioning this issue. However, I'm more than sure I am not the only one that has experienced this. So, let me just show this off. Okay. The issue happened, yet you couldn't see it. Let's try to... First, I open VS Code and then some other window that you can see. See? When I pressed escape, which is just my hotkey to close the GUI, for some reason, it changes the window. So, I'm on Google. I expect, so I bring up a GUI. When I press escape, I imagine that Chrome will be the active window. Yet it isn't, strangely enough. And even more strangely enough is the fact that this happens only sometimes. So optimizing for this in some strange fashion doesn't really make the full sense. This was incredibly annoying to me. But finally, recently, I found a solution. The Googler, the thing that I showed you off in my previous video, will never have this issue. Why? Because I programmed it differently. So, first of all, don't look, don't look. We're gonna get to that later. Let's go to coord getter, which is the function that does still have that issue. As you can see, it's been made some time ago, so it's not what I would make it now. So I have hotkey escape that does destruction, which only destroys the GUI. This is usually what you do. And you can see it's solved because I don't use the on event of escape. Back then I didn't know it existed. Turns out it does. Let's look at, well, I guess we can just go to the end. In the previous video, that wasn't there. This destroy was in deregister hotkeys. However, in some other place, I used minimize and noticed that it didn't have this issue that it talked about at the beginning. Turns out, if you use the minimize method of the GUI object and then destroy it, effectively that does the same thing, but removes that issue where it activates the wrong window. Matter of fact, what you could use instead, so let's comment this out, you could say, oh, when minimize, and then this handle. I'm still not sure how the fuck hvnd is pronounced handle sometimes. It's strange. So anyway, this essentially does the same thing, although kinda worse. Use the built-in method of the GUI object instead, because it's probably optimized in a better way than just targeting the GUI as a window. Yeah, and that's essentially it. So now every time you want to destroy a GUI, minimize it first. And if you always do this, you'll never come across this issue ever. However, there is one small thing that I think is important to note. Let's look at Googler. It has a title bar? No, not a title bar. Essentially, it has this thing in the Alt tab window and here. So when I minimize and destroy, well, it does what you expect. Same thing about my runner. Pretty sure it does have that and this, and it also uses minimize and destroy. However, let me show this off. There is something that can introduce an annoyance. Say you use plus tool window to remove that thing from here and from here. Let's reload the script and use the Googler again. Watch this place very closely. That was barely noticeable, and maybe on video it wasn't at all noticeable, but well, let me show this off in a more clear way, I guess. Because it doesn't have a window that we can see in Alt tab and in this window, it still has to minimize to something when we minimize it. So it creates this window. And even if the next exact moment we use destroy, you will still more or less notice this popping up. So it's a very important distinction. If you're going to use minimize to take care of that issue, you get the issue of it popping up here and rubbing your eyes the wrong way. So that's something to consider. My solution was to not remove the window from here, because more often than not, I won't notice it here or here. So it's okay. All right. I hope that was useful. I hope at least one person that has had the same issue as me now also knows how to fix it. Turns out it's pretty simple. All right. If you enjoyed this video, leave a comment. Tell me, have you had this issue? Is it common? Does everyone have this issue and never speak about it for some reason? I'm really interested. Subscribe to the channel, and goodbye.